You know, every time I go to pick and like put a hat on for the videos, I always instinctively go for the dad caps because I figured it's the only one that like actually fits onto. That was gross. Actually fits on top of my mask and it like looks the most natural. But I got like mad snapbacks too that I've never even tried to put on top of my mask before. Like look at this sick Boba Fett one, man. Like that's dope. I feel like just to humor myself, I want to try to see if it fits on my mask. Oh, dude, we just opened up a whole new avenue of videos now. Miles' snapback reviews. No one's gonna watch that. Hey, what up? I'm Miles and welcome back. Now, if you've seen me and you've seen the videos that I've made before, you know that I know a little bit about Spider-Man suits. If any of those videos didn't reveal that already, I've made a lot of different videos and ideas going over Spider-Man suits, going over the options, the designs, the process of getting one, the pros, the cons, the tips, the tricks, pretty much everything that you can imagine, yet I still managed to milk it for content because that's what content creators do, right? Calling myself out, not anybody else. That was just my own shot, catching strays. Anyway, even though I've made like a ridiculous amount of videos, I've still always gotten one question that I've never been able to actually like properly answer. And that is going over a couple of the extra options that Print Costume offers. If you're unaware, Print Costume is where I get all of my Spider-Man suits from. It's also the shop site that I use to give suits away to you guys. If you use my code MILES15, it gives me credits. I then use those credits to give the suits back out to people. I'm currently in the process of giving out like 8 or 9 suits to the people who won the holiday giveaway. And because of that, I have a great opportunity to actually look at some of those suits and show you guys some of the options. On Print Costume, there are 3 separate options that I have not gotten on any of my suits before. The first is a raised emblem, the second is raised webbing, and the third is leather textures, which is only applied on certain suits that actually offer the leather. The only one of these options that I've ever gotten is a screen printed emblem that I've gotten on my Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. But as far as the other ones, I've never had a suit to properly show you guys and review what they are. That is until yesterday when I picked up a package that was filled with not 1, not 2, but 3 of the giveaway winners' Spider-Man suits that I have to ship out. But I figured as long as I had the suits with me, I might as well go over some of the options that those guys got, because in those suits, some of them have a leather texture, some have raised webbing, and some have a raised emblem. So in this video, I'm going to officially dive deep, review, and see what Print Costume has to offer if their game is still top tier when it comes to those extra options. All y'all know that I love Print Costume. They're my go-to for Spider-Man suits, and I'm always gonna go with them, but I've never seen these options. So I'm very keen to see what they bring to the table and how top tier their options actually are. So let's get into it. All right, so the first option I'm going to go over is actually one of my own suits. So this is my Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. This is the only option that I have ever gotten from this extra list, and that is the screen printed emblem. I figured that I would start off with my own suit, a suit that you guys have seen before, and the option that I can actually like go over and review. So this is what you get when you look at a screen printed emblem. You might not see any difference when you actually look at it, but when you get a little bit closer, you can see that there's physically another printed texture on top of the suit fabric. You can clearly see they are different textures. They have a different reaction to the lighting, and you can see how it folds and moves a little bit differently. It's almost like a leather material. It's stiff enough to hold the shape of the spider, but also flexible enough to move with the suit. The same thing kind of applies on the back of the suit. You have the exact same option of a screen printed emblem. You can see it was clearly placed on top of that seam and is different from the actual fabric. You can see it really nicely right there on the edge lining. How the lighting reacts, you can see that it's a little bit thicker, and how it just rests right on top of the fabric. So if you're ordering a screen printed emblem from Print Costume, this is what you will get. Now, keep in mind, this is different from a raised emblem, and I'll show you that next so we can kind of compare the difference. My only real thing would be that the raised emblem is a little bit thicker. We can see that this is like maybe not even a 32nd of an inch. It is incredibly small, and it's only meant to give a difference in texture versus a raised emblem, which would give a very clear difference in like depth. And I just want to show you guys the difference between a normal emblem and a screen printed emblem. Normal emblem, you can see like this. It's just printed right on the fabric. There's no difference in it. It's the same exact thing, no way around, right? Versus, of course, the screen printed emblem we just went over. It's clearly printed on top. It's its own like very thin piece of almost rubber that's slapped on there. So those are my 2 suits out of the way. Let's actually get into the suits that the winners have. I am going to throw some gloves on really quickly just because I'm going to be handling other people's suits, and if there's any like oils from my hand or paint or dust or anything that's like hidden I wouldn't want to get that on somebody else's suit. So the first two options that we have to go over are the raised emblem and the leather print textures. This suit, of course, is the Stark suit, the homecoming suit that is going out to our friend Brandon, who was one of the holiday winners. When he picked the suit, he went for the raised emblem and the leather details, which were great choices. Now, the leather details are a little bit weird because they're only offered on some suits. Obviously, the suits that have leather in the design are going to offer them. If you go on Print Costume, you'll see that not every single suit offers a leather print texture. The ones that do obviously have them in the design, the homecoming suit being probably the most prominent one. So let's take a look at that first. We can see how the leather isn't actually like a real leather. It's more or less like a flexible pleather material, which is definitely more expected. Now, if we were to put a regular like normal leather on top, I doubt it would be as flexible. It would still probably have a little bit of flex, but in terms of a Spider-Man suit, you want it to have the flex, you want it to have flexibility, you want it to have good movement, good breathability. It's probably a better move to go for a leather print texture that's like fake pleather, you know? And the only real difference with that is the feel of it. Now, when you actually look at it, you could be mistaken and think that this is actually real leather. It has the sheen, it has the shine, it reacts with light pretty similar to how actual leather does, and it has the look of leather texture, which is pretty good. The only difference of it not being leather is obviously the fact that it's a little bit thinner. Now, I will say, looking at this leather texture, part of it does concern me. This part seems very nice. It seems like it's very nicely sewn on. However, my concern is this little 1/8 of an inch gap right out of the sew line, right here, this little flap. I feel like that has a very high risk of pulling off and possibly ripping the texture off. Now, I don't see that being a huge problem. I only really see it coming up if someone physically went up and pulled it off. It's just me, when I observe Spider-Man suits, I try to like look at everything and look to see if I would actually want that option. Something I'm also noticing with the leather print texture is if you look underneath, you can see that it's all red, right? This is red, this is red. There's no black print underneath that would be like designated for the leather. So hypothetically, if we were to look at this suit without leather print texture and it was just all Lycra, there would be a physical point on the red where this design pulled through and it showed this but not in leather. Did that make sense? However, I'm noticing that that doesn't exist. So it's almost as if there's a separate print file that they print without the leather print on there so that when they print it out, they can physically sew the actual leather on. And I think that's really neat. I think that that's really smart and it's good attention to detail. Otherwise, you might like see the leather print and there's like a design underneath it, right? This brings up the realism factor a little bit more, and it physically shows that there is a 3D texture laid on top and it was separately sewn on. Obviously, the leather print goes around the entire suit, the shoulders being probably the most prominent area. And I'm really excited to see how this suit looks when somebody is wearing it and when they put it on, because when you have something like this, the shape underneath is incredibly important. Because me just holding it like this, all of those lines, see the lighting lines, none of those are real, right? None of those are going to matter, because when we put this suit on, let's say the shoulder is very tight like it should be, it'll look something a lot more like clean like this versus like nice and loopy where you see random lighting lines everywhere. The leather print seems to be pretty much the same all the way around, and they work kind of around the stitch lines as well. So it's not like a separate piece laid on. It looks like they actually sew it into the seam line. So that's a lot nicer, and it like alleviates the risk of ripping the leather. Brandon also got wrist zippers, and it looks as though they put them right through the leather print texture so that you can still have ease of access to your hand. Oh, it looks like he also got colored fabrics as well. That's sick. So that's another option we just reviewed of colored fabrics. It's not like the white print on the inside, it's the physical colored prints. Anyway, so my final reaction and review of the leather print textures. Now, I don't really know how to feel about the leather print. I don't think it's a poor option. I think it's actually a pretty smart option to do, especially if you're getting a suit like this that calls for it, a suit like the homecoming suit that requires the leather print texture. Because if you didn't have it, obviously like I referred to earlier, if it was printed on the design like this, you wouldn't have this nice like metallic sheen on the leather, and that's really pretty. I like the way that that looks, especially if you're doing like an outdoor daytime shoot. The way the sun hits that can definitely make or break your photos, and having this texture is definitely a step up from not having it. However, the only flaw that I could potentially see is the fact that it's something that could rip off of the suit. Now, this isn't specific to the leather print texture. Obviously, if you get like wrist zippers, having the zip up and down, there's a chance that that will bust. If you get a neck zipper, zipping that up and down, there's a chance that that will bust. Getting any sort of option on a suit, no matter the quality that it's produced in, there is a chance that no matter what that option is, it might break. That's just kind of how the game works. If you get more options, there's more of a chance that those options might defect, those options might break, and it's all a matter of how you care for the suit. So, Brandon, if you are watching this video, my advice for you with this leather print texture is to be very careful when you're putting the suit on and taking it off. Take your time, don't rush into like getting the suit on. Don't rush in because you might rip it. Especially, here's the big point of when you get to these wrist zippers. Please be very careful with these wrist zippers. Make sure you're applying pressure on both sides. and that you just slide it down nice and easy like that. I have had wrist zippers burst on me in the past. With yours being implemented inside of the leather print texture, I don't want them to break on you. Now, that's just a fault of me. I've had friends who have wrist zippers and they've never broken because they're not as reckless as me. So I'm simply just giving you advice on stuff that I failed to do. Be careful with the wrist zippers and be careful getting in and out of the suit because your leather print texture is a little fragile. But once you're in the suit, feel free to go buck wild, do some cool poses, get that cool lighting. I don't see a problem with the leather once you're actually in the suit because of course it'll act just like your Lycra and it'll expand and wrap around your body. And since we custom sized this suit to you, it should fit perfectly and I don't see any problems with it. Now the second option I want to go over is the raised emblem compared to the printed emblem and the screen printed emblem. As we can see right here on this homecoming emblem, Brandom did get the raised emblem and you can very clearly see it's a lot thicker than the screen print. It looks to be almost like 1/8 of an inch thick, and if you fold the fabric, you see how the emblem moves a little bit differently. That's kind of the idea of getting a raised emblem, is the fact that it is obviously raised off the suit. It's going to behave differently than the actual Lycra. If I move the Lycra around, you see how it folds and it like concaves in, but the emblem never does. The emblem never folds, the emblem never moves because it's raised, because it's thick, because it has form. The actual material looks almost like urethane, maybe some form of rubber. Very flexible, it can take a different shape if necessary, but it also holds its shape. Now again, I have the same kind of concern with this that I do with the leather. It's nothing on nobody's fault other than the fact that it's a very thin spider leg, and obviously if like someone ran up and wanted to peel that leg off, they probably could. Simply because I don't think that this is sewn in, it's probably just attached to the Lycra. So again, I would just be cautious when putting the suit on, make sure that the actual emblem is lined up nice and cute. And with the raised emblem, you get the same thing on the back. And this is what caught my eye. This is what inspired me to make this video, is when I opened up these suits to do a quality check on them, I saw this one and I was like, damn, that looks really good. This is incredibly clean. Damn, hold on, I just noticed that. Look at how nice that sheen is, like the lighting hitting the blue. This is a really pretty shade of blue now that I'm really looking at it. Great suit, Brandon, great choice, man. But this is the raised emblem, and this is what really caught my eye, was how large and how like prominent this emblem was, how much contrast is there. Again, you can see it looks to be about 1/8 of an inch in thickness, which of course, again, compared to the screen printed emblem, is a world of difference when it comes to the thickness. You can very clearly see the difference. So that would be the main difference between a screen print emblem and a raised emblem, is the thickness and how it actually behaves with the suit. Again, you can see I can move the suit all around, the suit folds, but the emblem never does. Again, I can't wait to see how the suit looks on somebody when the fabric is properly stretched out to the person and the suit properly like molds over and expands over the back. So if you're looking to get a suit from Print Costume and you want a raised emblem, I would say go for it if the suit calls for it. Now, what do I mean by that? Not every suit needs a raised emblem. If you're getting like the Tobey Maguire suit, that one probably does. That one has a very prominent emblem. If you're getting like the Into the Spider-Verse Miles Morales suit, that one probably doesn't because it's animated and it's more skin tight. But of course, all of it's up to you. You're allowed to choose which ones you want, and hopefully this is a good visual to kind of show you what you will get if you choose a raised emblem. And here's the part that you've all been waiting for. Here's the one that you probably clicked on this video for. The Print Costume raised webbing, the puff painting that they offer. This suit is modeled after the Spider-Man Lotus design, and it is going out to our friend Alonzo, who was also one of the holiday winners. Alonzo chose a screen printed emblem. As you can see, it's a bit of a thinner emblem, and he chose the big option, the raised webbing, the puff painting. Now, when it comes to puff painting, I've always been very meticulous about it. I've never gotten it on any of my suits, and I've always wanted to like go through the process of applying it myself, right? Because I know that it's not something that you can just print, right? Unless of course you're doing like the Tobey Maguire method where they do a whole urethane thing and then they lay it on the suit. That's totally different. When it comes to these thin webbings, it's hand done. They do it by hand, they do it with a little needle, and you have to do every single web very carefully. And people have always asked me how Print Costume does it, and I've never had an answer until now. So let's go over and critique and review how Print Costume did on their puff painting. I have to say right off the bat, just looking at it, it's incredibly neat and incredibly impressive. I know that when it comes to puff painting, it is not the easiest thing in the world. You have to stretch out the suit, and you have to, again, like I said, very meticulously with a needle, like a squeeze gun like this, very oh, I probably shouldn't do that over someone's suit. Oops, you didn't see that. You have to very meticulously like apply it with a needle on every single thing. There's no cheat code to it. There's no way around it. You gotta do it the slow way. And also with every single line connecting to obviously the next line, you have to be very slow and meticulous about possible bumps, about possible like globs, about possible air bubbles, all of that stuff. Whether I get it from somebody else or I do it myself, I've always been concerned about the human error aspect of not getting it perfect. But looking off the bat with Print Costume's puff painting, I have to say they get pretty close to perfect here. Like, obviously I don't have a lot to judge off of other than just viewing this physical suit in front of me, but looking at what I have in front of me, I can say that they did a fairly damn good job of getting every single line nice and cute and not going over any lines, not bubbling up, all of that stuff. It looks like they really took their time to do it right. And I also like, again, the human nature aspect of it. You can see sometimes it bleeds out a little bit. You can see sometimes there's a little bit of overage right there, like when the lines cross. You can see the thickness rises up just a touch there. And I like that. I like being able to see stuff like that, where it's like a planned informality versus something that went wrong. Obviously, again, the back emblem, he got a screen printed emblem, nice and cute. When we make our way down to the feet, they do the exact same thing. All of the suits that I'm showing you guys now, they all got soles and kung fu shoes. I always recommend that all of the winners get those. They don't have to if they don't want to, but I always recommend them. And the webbing behaves the same way. It kind of prints all the way through and then tucks underneath the sole. When it comes to the gloves, this is something that I'm very impressed by, is again, just how like accurate and how great it was actually applied to the suit. Obviously, I won't be able to try the suit on and show you guys how well the webbing lines up from the glove to the sleeve, but I would be willing to bet that it's fairly close or within at least the same ballpark. But again, looking at this glove and looking like how intricately it was all done, how it was all like nicely hand applied, I am very impressed by Print Costume's puff painting. Even the fingers, dude, like right over these sew lines, these tiny little globs, they still managed to get fairly close with like all of it. Now, if I had to guess, might be wrong, but if I had to guess, I would say Print Costume has a bit of an advantage when they do puff painting, because obviously they are sewing the suit. Most people, when they get a Spider-Man suit, they get the whole suit sewn, and then they have to like pull it over something and then puff paint it piece by piece. With Print Costume being able to make their own suits, my guess would be that before they even sew the suit, they lay it flat and apply all of the webbing on, and then they sew it together. And the only thing that's giving me that idea is whenever I look at any of these sew lines, you can see how it looks like the webbing was sewn in with the actual suit. And that's only something you can really accomplish by having the suit laid out first, doing all of your puff painting, and then sewing it together. And it's almost like, imagine these are the two like webbing lines, and this is a sew line between the two. Once you sew it, they like do this, and they'll lock in together. I could be wrong. I don't work for Print Costume. I don't make Spider-Man suits like them, but just observing the suit and looking at it, that would be my best guess as to how they do it and why it looks so clean. Same kind of thing with the mask, which is like my biggest concern when it comes to actual puff painting, is how the mask looks. Now again, this isn't my suit, so I can't like try the mask on. I can't put a shell under it because I don't own this shell, but you can see how they took into account that the lenses would go on top. They stopped the webbing a little bit here, so that whatever lens here could lock in there. And I gotta say, again, it was done really, really well. And you'll notice one thing with the raised webbing is you can see all of the different lighting. When I turn the light off here, you can see how it all goes away, right? And it just looks like a normal printed suit. But the second the light goes on, you can see how it all reflects and reacts differently on the raised webbing. Again, it offers up a really interesting like way you can pose for photos and the way the light will refract off of your suit. And also, just a quick thing, this suit doesn't have any of the options, but when I picked up the package, there were 3 suits in it for 3 different winners, and I would feel bad if I didn't show the 3rd winner's suit. So this is a Venomized like symbiote suit that the 3rd winner got, and it looks pretty dope. They didn't get any raised webbing, any screen print, any raised emblem, nothing. I just wanted to include their suit because it was sitting right there and I didn't want someone to feel unincluded. So I hope that that was able to give somebody some form of like confirmation on if they're going to get a suit like that or going to get one of those options. I know that that actually did help and benefit me to actually view and look at those options, because again, like I said, I don't own a suit with any of those options. I've only ever had the screen printed emblem. So being able to physically see and like observe and review those options, I kind of have a better idea on if I want to get them in the future. So here's my final analysis. When it comes to leather print textures, if it comes down to it, getting a suit with leather print textures, I would definitely consider it. I wouldn't say yes or no entirely. I would definitely consider it if I wanted it. The only reason I say that is a personal bias. I feel like I would want a little bit more control over what texture I'm getting, what fabric I'm getting, and how it's applied to the suit versus giving it to somebody else to do. Even though they are a professional company and they did a very good job with this one, I would want more control simply just based on the fact of I want to pick the texture. However, I think a leather print texture is a pretty good idea if your suit calls for it. If you're getting a Holland suit and it has leather print, go for it. It looks pretty cool. When it comes to screen print emblems, I would always recommend that. Unless your suit doesn't call for it like it's an animated suit, I would always get a screen printed emblem. I think it's pretty sick and it gives a different lighting effect that looks great. When it comes to a raised raised emblem. I would also get that too if my suit called for it. I keep saying that a lot, if my suit calls for it, and what that means is like it's based on circumstance. Some suits might call for different things. If I'm getting a suit that has a more prominent emblem, like let's say I were to get the No Way Home Final Swing suit, I would probably get a raised emblem. But if I'm getting like the Across the Spider-Verse suit, I would not. It's up to personal preference, and it's also up to how you want your suit to look, but I think both are a great option. Now the final one, the big kahuna, the raised webbing, the puffy paint. Would I get one from Print Costume? Yeah, I would. Now again, I've always been pretty iffy about puffy painting. I've never really had it applied to any of my suits. I think that if I didn't want to apply it myself, Print Costume is a great place to actually get your puff painting done, because clearly they did a bang up job and did it incredibly well, and probably better than I could do. However, with me wanting to make everything and always wanting to learn and do new things, I would be pretty stubborn and want to do it myself with a very high risk of messing up, but that's me. If you're looking to get any of these options from Print Costume, all I gotta say is they offer pretty good quality, and all of them were done with a lot of care and precision. Again, it's just up to your own personal preference, how you want your suit to look, how you want your suit to perform, and of course what suit it is, if the suit calls for it. All that's up to you, but all I gotta say is all of them are pretty good options, and I give them in a Miles approved stamp. I should get that. I should get like a sticker that says Miles approved. Even though I have absolutely zero credibility or, ow, mother, even though I have like absolutely zero like credentials to implement that. Anyway, thank you again so much for watching. Make sure to tune into the next video. I'll give you a little bit of a teaser where we're building another shell. Ooh, too much. Peace and love, do good things, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, Spider-Man!